board meeting to order and remind everyone to please mute your audio when not speaking, as well as state your name prior to making a comment or motion or a second for an action item. I'll ask each commissioner to please respond with a here when I call out their name. Commissioner Duggan.
Here. Hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Excellent.
Commissioner Lysick.
Here.
Commissioner Sanders.
Here.
Wonderful. We'll now have reports by our Chief Executive Officer and management staff.
Well, good evening, President Fisher and Commissioners. First, I want to just make sure the presentation is up. I think I inadvertently turned it off for a minute. Is it coming through? And I want to thank Justin Dyke for handling things while I was gone, including preparing tonight's CEO announcements. So thank you, Justin. As I said, I was out after last week's board meeting. And so these will be some brief announcements. Then we'll hear from Sarah Alton. But just give you a couple of updates on our legislative events going forward. The first is on 189th Avenue Pump Station event. So you might remember that we have 3 events that we put into our initiatives for this biennium. 1 federal event, 1 state event, and then 1 regional event. We had the regional event when we had Dr. Teodoro come in and do his presentations. The 189th would be the state event. We have that scheduled for Monday, August 17th from 5 to 7. It'll be at the intersection of Southwest 189th and Hart Road, which is where the facility is. It'll be an open house style of an opportunity for people to come in, have their pictures taken, essentially providing some gratitude for the $3 million of funding that the state legislature provided to offset the cost of building that pump station. We and CFM advocates are coordinating RSVPs. There's no on-site parking, so be advised the hill is steep and we'll need to walk in just given the constraints of the site. Justin, anything you would want to add to this? Sorry to put you on the spot, but.
No, it's completely fine. There could be a little bit of on-site parking. Once we get the event set up, we'll get our vehicles out of the way. So if there are any concerns, or if we do hear from our partners at CFM Advocates that there are legislative members or staff whom do share a concern about walking, we can make that available to ensure that their ability to attend the event. We just want to make sure that the 4 or 5 spaces for vehicles in front of the pump station are reserved for those who really need it. And we're looking forward to it. CFM team has been really excited about this, and they've already gotten some positive feedback from the folks they've reached out to.
Thank you, Justin. And then the next item we want to talk about is the virtual town hall for the water supply integration. And that's scheduled for September 16th. That's a Wednesday at 1 p.m. It's available to elected officials and the delegation and their staff, both at the federal and state level. The idea is to give them the information they need to answer questions about WSI and to make sure that we get the information back to our team so that we can make the most of the information, make sure our customers are being cared for. But providing that information to the elected officials and their staff is important. In fact, when Commissioner Fisher and I were back in Washington, D.C. at ACE, we did have a chance to talk to the staff member of the delegation, and all of them were very interested in participating in this event, so we'll make sure they get invitations. On this one, staff, CFM, and Commissioner Fisher will help coordinate invitations to make sure we get as broad of a turnout. If you have folks that you want to make sure that they're that they get an invite, please let us know, and we'll reach out to them and give them an invitation. The goal is to educate staff for possible constituent outreach ahead of the WSI. It's quite possible that as we go through this, if we've learned anything from what we saw at Gresham, Rockwood, and other places around the country, people will reach out. They may reach out to their legislative officials, and we want to have an avenue, get them prepared well in advance so that they aren't caught flat-footed, and they can help us make sure we get the right information to the customers to deal with the situations at hand. Justin, we'll put you back on the spot too. Anything on this you wanted to add?
No, well, yeah, a little bit. The reason I wanted to express there is that having this event as very limited attendees. So it is just the elected delegation and their staff. That was something, again, our partners at CFM had recommended so that elected or staff members feel that they really have an opportunity to ask a whole wide range of questions, mostly about the water supply integration. But if they did want to track onto some other topics or ask questions that they could perceive as me something that is just silly almost, like we want them to have an opportunity to ask quite literally anything of us. So that means that having their constituents not attend makes them a more engaging and open opportunity. And the content of these presentations and the reactions we get from these staff members are really going to be educational for us as we prepare to do virtual and in-person town hall meetings for our customers as we get closer towards integration. So this is a really great opportunity for us to do some trial run and see how engaging we're able to make the content so that we can refine it further when we present it directly to our customers.
We may hear some questions about data centers. I would think that that is a possible, based on our conversations.
Yep, we've been prepped for that, and PFAS is another alternative item to have in the boneyard, as we call it.
The last time I wanted to bring to your attention here is the media attention that we got from the Walker and Murray Road incident. So you'll remember it was actually Pete gave an update at our work session, but on July 6th, the contractor struck our 48-inch water transmission main that's in Southwest Walker Road at Murray. And we had the geyser that you see in the picture on the right. The media interest began in the morning following social media posts showing the leak. It had that visual attractiveness that generates interest from the news media. The main resumed regular service on Thursday, July 9th, ending the incident. Coordination with the Washington County's Land Use and Transportation, PIO, was prompt, professional, and highly effective. So it was great to have that kind of relationship with LUT to make sure that we were speaking consistently. Now I'll turn it to Justin. If there's anything you want to add here, and then I'll open up maybe Sarah if you wanted to add something on the actual work itself. Justin, do you have anything more?
So thanks, Paul. I just wanted to reiterate that the media interest really came in following the social media overnight coverage. Kudos to our duty response team. That was Julius Plisbo, who immediately, well, not immediately, but after arrival and situational awareness, he gave me a call, let me know that media might be available. We discussed his plan for if media did show up, how to get me back out to the site and so forth. But throughout the evening, media didn't express interest at that late hour of the night. They're doing their final broadcasts on TV, and they're trying to get themselves home so that the morning crew can come in. What we saw was really the traction grow through Reddit, Nextdoor, Facebook over the evening and the next morning, and that's where you see really the stations. Fox 12 was the first one the next morning who came to us, and then the Oregonian a little bit about an hour after that. So these things are channels of which reporters monitor and they engage with and they use for content. This is a dramatic and beautiful visual. So it's not a surprise. And a considerable kudos to Lauren Scott. She's the PIO with Washington County LUT. Couldn't say kind enough words for the interactions, the coordination, and the promptness that we were able to work together and talk with the Oregonian and Fox 12 really efficiently. And it was, all things considered, a pleasure working with their team through the event.
Sarah, did you want to add anything? Put you on the spot, equal opportunity spot put runner.
Sure. Yeah, I think, I'm really impressed with how our team came together and worked hand in hand with the contractor out there to get it repaired. And, it could have been a really stressful situation, but we just have a team of experts and we all knew how to respond to this. And we thankfully had some material on hand to use to help repair the pipe. So all's well that ends well. And the pipe will get replaced here probably in the next 3 months. So that repair is only temporary.
Thank you, Sarah. Which brings me to my next item, which actually is the director's report, which our engineering division manager, Sarah Alton, will present. So Sarah, why don't you take it away for us?
Thanks, Paul. Let's see. I think taking control of the screen was the right move there. So I will proceed. Good evening, Commissioners. I am presenting tonight's Director's Report for Pete Boone, who's out on vacation. So he asked me to present to you about kind of what's going on in engineering. You're probably very well aware of all of our highly visible capital projects, but I wanted to go over some of the other work that we're doing. So I'm kind of focusing on 3 areas for us: the capital improvement program, our development services, and then kind of unseen is our planning and resilience efforts. So in the capital improvement plan, kind of some of the high level projects that we're working on, and this list could easily be 30 bullet points long, but I didn't want to bore you with all of the details of the projects. But some of the ones that you're probably most interested in are the Taylor's Ferry Reservoir and Pump Station project, our Florence Lane Pump Station project, Todd and Linda main replacement, and then the Murray and Walker intersection. So the ones that I have asterisks, I'll cover more in the other slides, but just know that those projects are really consuming a lot of our time and focus right now for the engineering staff. And the first 2 on that CIP, those are really important as we prepare for our water system integration with the Willamette. Those are needed to bring Willamette water into our Metzger portion of our district. And then development services, I know it's been a couple of years since we've presented on what's going on in development. While the total number of projects that you see in that month in review report has gone down, the complexity of those projects and the redevelopment that's happening in our district still feels like the same level of workload when we had the greenfield development in North Bethany. So we recently just released our July 1 edition of the 2026 water system standards. So those are up available on our website now and have been communicated out to the development community. So that really helps us stay on top of development, make sure we're giving them the best information so that our expectations are very clear. And then 2 of the big development projects that have been happening that have taken a lot of staff time and effort are the Dick's House of Sports, which is a redevelopment of Sears at Washington Square Mall. And then the Touchmark development up off of Barnes Road. We've been doing a lot of work directly with that developer to figure out how to serve their future needs for that development. And then in planning and resilience, we make time for this. It's very important for us to plan for the future and make sure that, as an engineering team, we're helping support our operators. So one of the big projects that we've been working on is engineering record scanning. So we're taking all of our old as-builts that are on paper and getting those scanned into our SharePoint file system so everyone has access to them. And then we're also preparing for our water system master plan. You guys probably recall that we were going to do that project in our last biennium, and then we deferred it because of workload and wanting the Willamette to be online before we updated it. So we've been doing some work to be prepared for that system master plan. And so right now we're actually working on our hydraulic model updates to incorporate some of the last round of CIP projects, such as the 189th pump station. So we're working on all of that stuff. So getting into some of the details, the CIP projects, Taylor's Ferry, I know you guys have been hearing a lot about this one, but just a reminder that this project did receive a FEMA Natural Hazard Mitigation Grant that's being administered by OEM for $17.25 million was the total amount that we have been granted at this point in time. We have submitted a lot of our requests for reimbursement, and those have actually started moving forward a little bit in the past couple of months. We've gotten a lot of requests from information from FEMA that Nick has been responding to along with our staff in the finance department. So hopefully we'll see some of that reimbursement come through soon. The next 4 months are going to be really busy on site. You can see one of the most recent aerial images there. The ops building towards the top part of the picture is really starting to come together. We just poured the floor for that this week, I believe. And we're working on the pump station building as well as the operations building. We'll be working on restoring the landscaping on the north slope of the site towards Florence Lane. And then there will be some paving and things like that. That'll really make this site look like it's coming together. And then when all of that stuff is done, we'll be working on pump installation, startup, and commissioning. So that'll be at the very end of the 4 months. And then Todd and Linda is another project that we received a grant for. This one was from Washington County Community Development Block Grant for areas of lower than medium income households. So we received their full amount for infrastructure projects for this grant cycle, $724,000. And we submitted our request for reimbursement voucher on July 10th. So hopefully we will see that soon. This project was pretty complex because of the Build America, Buy America requirements that we had to follow. It's actually the first one that we've done in district that had those requirements. But overall, the project is at this point mostly complete. We're doing our final paving out there this week. I think the last day of paving is actually scheduled for next Monday out on Murray Boulevard. But this project replaced 4,400 feet of 1950s lead joint cast iron pipe. And when we took that pipe out of our GIS system, it also removed 2% of the district's leak history with it. So it's a pretty substantial amount of leaks just in one neighborhood that we've removed. We had a couple of leaks along the way as this project was constructed. So everyone's happy to see that pipe be fully abandoned. On to development. So as I mentioned, we have our new standards that were effective July 1, 2026. Kind of high-level revisions included updates to materials. One of the big things that we joke about in engineering is we're never going to figure out what meter boxes we want. I think we got it this time, so keep your fingers crossed for me that I don't have to release a July 1, 2027 revision to our standards with changes to our meter boxes, but we'll see. We also did a pretty hefty round of clarifications to our standard details, especially related to our backflow details. Those have been updated for a greater depth of clarity. If you've been on our Oregon administrative rules, you'll realize that they took out all of the figures that we used for our construction standards for waterworks construction. So we had to add those back in to make things easier for people. And we had to get with the times. Our CAD files were getting pretty old and outdated. And so as the newer CAD standards have gone into effect, they weren't showing up clearly in people's plan sets. You could almost not read them at all. So we've increased the ability for those to be imported to other designers' plan sets for legibility. And then we also created two details that we were generating kind of on an ad hoc basis as projects needed them. Now we've standardized. So another tapping detail for where we tap an existing cathodically protected pipe. And then we also added back in a detail for 2-inch and smaller double check installation, which is a detail we had up until about 2018. So we brought it back as we've realized that people need that additional information. And then I wanted to highlight the Sears redevelopment. I think, Sears has been a long-standing vacancy at Washington Square Mall. So in its place, Dick's Sporting Goods is going to build one of their Dick's House of Sports facilities, which will have sport courts and rock climbing walls at the facility. So it's a pretty big deal for Washington Square Mall. They're one of our big customers, and Justin helped a lot with the communication with them as this project progressed. It got to a point where we were out there almost full time as the only inspection staff out there while they were installing their private storm facility, because the storm excavation was 30 plus feet deep around our 12-inch cast iron pipe that was installed in 1972. And thankfully, one of our inspectors, when he went out there and saw exactly how they were going to be doing this work, he recommended that we actually turn off that section of main so that if it were to be damaged, it wouldn't flood their excavation. So we had that 12-inch pipe isolated during the construction, and we found a couple of unmapped fire lines that we were able to get back into service while still protecting the contractor. And it was a really good thing that we listened to our gut instinct, because when they were finally done with the storm and we went back to check the integrity of our 12-inch pipe, we'd found that it had pulled apart in multiple locations. So given that there were people working under that pipeline in a 30 feet deep hole, we were very, very glad that that pipe was not active when that happened. So things like this do take a lot of time for our inspectors, and we're very grateful that we have people who are experienced working around unrestrained water systems who know what to look for. And then on to planning and resilience, the record scanning project. I don't really have great pictures of this because it really just looks like engineering plans. But we have contracted with Oregon Corrections Enterprises, and the staff at, or I guess I should say, the people at Oregon Corrections Enterprises, those who are incarcerated, they've been scanning our records for almost a year now, and we've scanned projects ranging from 1998 to 2025, and that's over 14,000 individual PDFs with searchable text. So now when our engineers and operators pull those up and they want to look for a 12-inch MJT, they can search for those keywords and they can find it. So this is a huge, huge improvement for us. We're able to be more adaptable at our jobs. If we have another COVID type event happen, we'll be able to pull up our records rather than coming into the office to find them. And then our GIS team is actually working on linking these two polygons in our system. So you can click on that and it'll take you directly to those files for that specific pipe or facility. And then the last update I have for you is our water system model. So we've had some recent system improvements that we wanted to capture, making sure that our fire flow information is up to date. So we are adding in our 189th pump station, as well as the Taylor's Ferry reservoirs that were just built. We also did a full review of our GIS data compared to our model, our hydraulic model, and we added and removed sections of pipeline that have become inactive or active since the last time our model was updated. And then once we have all of those model updates completed, we're going to move into the next phase of planning, which is to reassess the water age results that were done for our water system integration plan. As we've had more time to prepare for the Willamette, we've thought a lot about how we want to bring that water into our system. And so we made some tweaks to the plan, which I believe we will present those to the board at a later date about that plan. But on the engineering side, we're going to take all of those updates to the plan, run them through the model, and just validate that none of the changes we've made have impacted the water age in our system for system integration. And that is all I have for you guys tonight, and I will hand it back or answer any questions.
You have a question from Commissioner?
Yeah, Commissioner Sanders.
I apologize, Sarah, if this is too large of a question, because it's a large project, and that is, who ultimately owns all of the engineering documentation, etc., for the new Willamette system?
That's probably a good question for Joelle and Tim. I know that they're working on the EO&M system, and that I believe will be on our SharePoint site. So I think Tim ultimately owns it, but Joelle and her team have had a lot of input into what that looks like.
You nailed it,
And then
Sarah.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Joelle.
Oh, I say Sarah nailed it.
So since Joelle is a TVWD employee, I guess what that means is that all of this engineering documentation, etc., is ultimately under the purview of TVWD.
It's the managing agency, that's right.
Yep, we'll be managing it. Yep, and we'll have the primary engineering responsibilities for the Willamette water supply system.
Excellent. Thank you for, I was pretty sure that was the case, but thank you for confirming.
Good question.
Any other questions for Sarah? If not, that concludes the tonight's report of the CEO and management staff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. We'll now move into Commissioner communications and reports of meetings attended. The commissioners will now report on recent meetings attended, and we will start with Commissioner Duggan.
All right. On June 24th, I attended the impact meeting where newly elected President Juan Carlos Gonzalez came and gave an introductory talk The topics covered that night were future and vision engagement with public and economic development roadmap for 2040. On July 1st, excuse me. Yeah, no, excuse me, July 6th, Paul Matthews and I met for my monthly update and catching up with him. On July 7th, I attended our board work session where we started our interview process to pick a replacement commissioner, and we received other updates. On July 8th, I attended the Talking Water where staff did an excellent job presenting the topic of advanced irrigation controllers, and a lot of it, if you didn't have experience with irrigation controllers, advanced irrigation controllers, it was very specialized but very detailed, and again, staff did a great job, and want to congratulate them for that Talking Water. Also on the 8th, I attended the Washington County District Aligned Community Group listening session for Commissioner District number 2, where Washington County staff, particularly from their Office of Community Engagement, were listening and had a presentation. And they also listened to public input. There are a number of participants that were there, and they're still planning on their October launch of their new community group sessions. I don't think they have a full name for it yet, other than they're calling it the District Aligned Community Group. But they're going to try to roll something out this fall, and we'll see what Washington County has for replacing the CPO program that has been going on for the last 30 plus years. Actually, it's probably closer to 40, 50 years. And then tonight's meeting. That's it for me. Thank you.
Commissioner Lysak.
I have a very short list this month. So our work session and tonight's meeting.
Commissioner Sanders.
Yes, likewise. Just the work session in July and tonight's meeting. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to start off with reporting that I attended the American Water Works Association ACE 26 conference in Washington, D.C. with several other TVWD staff, including CEO Paul Matthews. I thought it was a wonderful week of sessions and meetings, and we spent a lot of time with our friends at CFM lobbying our delegation, and had a delightful meeting with Senator Wyden and his staff, and then met with the staffs of Congresswoman Salinas, Senator Merkley, and Congresswoman Bonamici. There was also a very good, I would say that every ACE, there's a public officials breakfast, and it usually follows from a breakfast into I would call it like a work session debriefing, but it's just a chance for the AWA leadership to, personally interact with public officials from across the country. And they finally have decided that they're going to create a elected public officials caucus for AWA so that they can have better inroads to folks at our levels who are making policy decisions in various communities across the country. So that was sort of exciting to hear. And they had us take a little survey about what we would like to see in the future about having these sessions at more than just AWA ACE events. And then I came back from DC, and on the 7/1, I attended a telephone town hall, or participated in a telephone town hall with Congresswoman Salinas to hear more updates what just happened in DC while I was there. And then on the 2nd, we had our regular agenda planning meeting. On the 7th, our work session, and then tonight's meeting. Do we have any topics to be raised by commissioners? I'm not seeing any. So now we'll have public comment. Public comment time is set aside for persons wishing to address the board on items on the consent agenda and matters not on the agenda. Additional public comment will be invited on agenda items as they are presented. Sam, do we have anyone tonight signed up for public comment?
I'm not seeing any this evening.
Okay. So then we will move on to our consent agenda. Consent agenda items are considered to be routine and may be enacted in one motion without separate discussion. Any board members may request that an item be removed by motion for discussion and separate action. Any items requested to be removed from the consent agenda for separate discussion will be considered immediately after the board has approved those items which do not require discussion. And we have one item on our consent agenda, the board meeting minutes from June 17th. Do I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented?
This is Todd Sanders. I move to accept the consent agenda as presented.
This is Commissioner Duggan. I second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? The motion passes. We'll now move to our business agenda. And we'll begin with our continuing our interviews for board position number 5.
Well, thank you, President Fisher and commissioners. This is Sam Kaufman, your district recorder. And I'm going to kick off our second set of interviews for this evening. Just to summarize where we're at, the board vacancy subcommittee recommended 6 candidates to be considered by the board. One of the candidates withdrew from the process, and then we have 2 candidates who will be interviewed tonight. So tonight we'll have Daniel Cushing and Brian Kennedy. Daniel Cushing will be first up. And with that, I will kick it back to you, President Fisher, and you can proceed with your interviews.
Well, fellow board members, is there a volunteer who would like to be the question reader tonight? Noting that Commissioner Lysak happily volunteered at the last meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like Commissioner Duggan is doing something far better than reading documents.
Thank you so much for volunteering, Commissioner Sanders, because I'm limited to a single screen. As much as I valiantly tried to fire up my Amazon Fire so that I could have PDFs, I do not have the ability to look at anything else or print out anything. So
that might be a good thing.
Thank you, Commissioner Sanders.
It might be a good thing. All right. Hi, Daniel. I'm Todd Sanders. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. And did you receive the 8 questions?
I did, yes.
All right. So we're just going to be a little repetitive. I'm going to read them to you anyway, even though you have them. And then we'll give you a couple minutes to answer each one. Are you ready?
Sure thing.
Great. All right. Well, number 1, what skills, connections, resources, and expertise do you have to offer TVWD as a board member?
Thank you. And before we start, just to clarify, there's 30 minutes set aside for this interview. Is that right? Okay. I'm going to start my stopwatch then to make sure we stay on time. Thank you so much, President Fisher and commissioners, for the opportunity to speak with you this evening. My name is Dan Cushing. I'm thrilled at the opportunity to interview, and I want to thank the subcommittee as well for your work so far. So when it comes to the skills, connections, resources, and expertise that I would bring to the commission, first I want to share that I'm honored to receive support in this appointment process from individuals who are serving or recently elected to the Oregon Legislature, Metro Regional Government, the Washington County Commission, and the Beaverton City Council, as well as former Governor Kit Sauber. So a little bit about my background. I've been an Oregon registered lobbyist since 2017. And in that time, I've represented clients from a range of industries, transportation, agriculture, construction, including the building trades unions, several of them, and the Oregon Building Trades Council, and then various healthcare clients. And the healthcare track is the one that I landed on for my full time nowadays. I'm currently a government affairs director, also managing the communications for a Medicaid nonprofit serving Yamhill County. At one time, I also provided communication services for a special district, which was the Clackamas County Vector Control District. And I ran a successful bond measure campaign in 2016 to support the construction of Sherwood High School. So I share this with you because I'm hoping that this experience as a lobbyist will show the kind of thinking and communicating that I've had the chance to do over the course of my career, and frankly, that I would be an effective advocate for this organization at all levels of government. I understand that the commissioners in this role, you're not a lobbyist, but I believe that commissioners are often called upon to share testimony or meet with legislators on topics that are facing the district. I have maintained excellent relationships throughout my career with both Democrats and Republicans and their staffs, as well as lobbyists, including the good folks at CFM that represent TVWD, and also the folks representing the Special Districts Association of Oregon. And by the way, I'm going to go a little longer on question one, if you don't mind, because it's there's a little bit more in here, but some of the other ones will be shorter. So when it comes to this role, I really see two halves. I mean, I see my expertise and the job is fitting into two main buckets. One is healthcare. So I've dedicated my career to protecting healthcare access for low-income folks on the Oregon Health Plan. And I truly believe that there's nothing more foundational to good health than clean water, clean drinking water. And it's something that we take so for granted in this part of our state, in this region. But you don't have to look very far to see how polluted water or transmission mains can impact health. And then the second one is economic development. And I spoke earlier about my history of representing businesses and labor unions. I've also been a longtime volunteer with Oregon Pride in Business, which is Oregon's LGBTQ plus Chamber of Commerce. I served on its board of directors, and I'm currently a member of its advocacy committee. And then I also am currently a member of the Government Affairs Council for the McMinnville Area Chamber of Commerce, which is something I do in my capacity at work. So when it comes to the role of water in economic development, I really see water as an engine of economic development because you need a reliable water supply in order to have homes and businesses as well as to support future growth. And I think that the Willamette Water Supply Program that you all are in the middle of launching is a great example of taking proactive steps to ensure that there can be sustainable growth in the years ahead.
All right, great, thanks. Okay, ready? Question number two. The board desires that selected board members will run in the upcoming May 2027 special election for a 4-year term. Would you intend to do so? If we selected you, would you run this next spring for the full 4-year term?
Yes, that is my intention. And in fact, I've already established a candidate committee through the Secretary of State and entered into contract with the professional treasurer. So I'm ready to go.
Okay, thank you. All right, question number three. As a board member, what would you do if you directly observed or learned of TVWD employees appearing unprofessional or representing the district poorly? For example, misconduct, tending to personal errands during the workday, etc.
Yeah, so I'm really big on policies and procedures, and I wasn't able to access those for the district, but I'm sure that if appointed, I would be having some onboarding where I would learn what the policies and procedures are. I believe that for such a violation, it may be necessary to report to the HR director or the CEO, but it would be dictated by the policy. So I would follow that. Now, in healthcare, I think of it like this. We have kind of a scale. There's fraud, abuse, waste, and errors. Okay, so it's a scale from with being very, very serious to being just a little bit of a mistake. It's an opportunity for coaching. I think with an organization like this, the absolute top priority is safety of the employees and the public. So if there were an issue that were affecting safety, it would require an immediate response, including to emergency services if I was seeing something that was extremely, dangerous. But those aren't. That's not what you asked. You asked about misconduct and tending to personal errands. So in general, I think that the staff, and I've observed this as a customer and a ratepayer for many years, that the staff you have here are incredibly professional. And in general, I think it's my job to support them, to support their success. But I mean, and the commission is a position of public trust. And so if I observe misconduct, I believe it would be a breach of that trust not to follow the established protocols to rectify it.
Great. Question number 4 is, would you please describe your experience in meeting the needs of people with low incomes? How would your experience impact your votes in setting policy for the district, specific to increasing water rates to preserve the district's infrastructure and prepare for future water needs?
Yeah, I spoke earlier about my current role as a advocate for a Medicaid nonprofit, and part of the work of the local, it's called the Coordinated Care Organization, is to provide services and grant opportunities to community orgs that are doing really important work affecting low-income individuals. So, as a member of the leadership team reporting directly to the CEO, I've been in a lot of conversations about how to direct limited dollars to help those who are in need. And I understand, I get it, how big of an impact utility bills can have on households. And in fact, one of our programs actually helps people to be able to bridge utility bills when they're not able to pay. But I think that there's the old saying, an ounce of prevention equals a pound of cure. And what I mean is, it's much better to invest in the reliability and sustainability of supply upfront, even if it means a small increase in rates, as opposed to allow maintenance to be deferred and to back up, which is going to lead to costlier problems down the road. The worst case scenario would be that the water infrastructure that we put in place cannot support the population or the businesses, leading to economic slowdown or an outmigration from the region. And that's not hypothetical. I mean, that there's, economic forces that contribute to outmigration, and in Washington County, that hasn't really been an economic or demographic factor, but I do think that the work we do here is super important. So in summary, we have to balance affordability with prudent planning. And I think that looking at the budget carefully is super important. And I know that Commissioner Lysak, with your background in accounting, as well as Commissioner Sanders as a longtime member of the Budget Committee, that you all are very, very hawkish about the budget. And I would love to join you in being a careful steward of those ratepayer dollars.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to question number 5. How do you plan to distinguish your personal views from the district's?
Well, as a lobbyist, it's super important to distinguish who I'm representing at any given time. And that's something that I've grown accustomed to, having represented many clients at one time in the past. You have to always be clear about who you are speaking for and communicate clearly. Now, members of public bodies like this are subject to even more rigorous standards than advocates are. And I understand that. And like public meeting law is one example. And I'm very familiar with the Oregon Government Ethics Commission, and I've been a participant in some very helpful trainings that those folks put on. And so I'm already, I could say, at least one step into that process of making sure I become familiarized with this role and the ethics of this role. And I do believe that it's important for public officials to act in the best interests of their constituents, absolutely not themselves or their friends or relatives. And you asked how I plan to do that. To me, that means listening carefully to the recommendations of staff, discussing with you all what you think in a given matter that's before us for deliberation, and listening to members of public advisory bodies or other interested parties on topics that are facing the district. And so, I mean, all of my life experiences and values are assets, I think, when guiding decisions. So it's not that I'll reject any personal ideas. I mean, ideally that you all and the voters would put me in this position to exercise judgment and intelligence on these matters. But I must be very vigilant against making any decisions that are on my own behalf and also identifying any conflicts of interest and declaring those proactively.
Okay. Question number 6. The Board of Directors is a governing body responsible for setting policy for the district, and the CEO leads operations and manages the district's employees. The CEO reports to the board, and the district employees report to the CEO. How do you plan to work effectively within this environment?
Yeah, I've worked on both sides of this table in various capacities. I mean, first as a staff person, working very closely with the board of directors of my company. I've seen this from the staff point of view. I've also been on the board of directors of the small nonprofit that I mentioned earlier that did have at different times 1 and 2 staff, so a much smaller staff than what you have here. But to me, what I've learned is that the roles and responsibilities need to be very clear. The CEO is in charge of the staff and the day-to-day management. The board provides strategic direction, high-level policy. They're the ones that are in charge of the CEO, so the executive oversight, strategic planning, and then risk management are the main areas that I see for the board. The way I've seen this work really well is having periodic meetings with the CEO and individual board members. And it sounds from the meetings I've attended like you do that. And so that's a chance, I think, to ask questions and learn more in-depth information than can be necessarily gleaned in this public meeting environment. And what I have found, especially in the public meeting setting from all my years in the legislature, is that it's not about asking every single question, because we can never really have know all information about all topics. But it's asking the right questions to drive conversation and to make informed decisions. So I just to kind of wrap that up, I have to read the board materials. That's something I commit to doing. I have to stay informed about local, state, and national news. That's something I do already. And then there's all the internal and external committees that I've seen charted out in your board packets. There's the Willamette River Water Coalition Board, the Willamette Intake Facilities Commission Board, the Willamette Water Supply System Commission Board, and so on and so on. And I'm still figuring out what exactly each of those different organizations does differently from the others, but I understand that there's a structure that you have in place where each person takes on some of those responsibilities and then reports back to the full commission. So I would just make it my personal responsibility to stay informed about those. And then, of course, other jurisdictions as well, like metro regional government, the county commissions, and so on.
I know. Well, we'll use that to segue into question number 7 then, which starts with board members spend time attending those very board meetings you just discussed, the committee meetings and the conferences, as well as time preparing for the meetings. Each month, board members meet for 1 2-hour board meeting, 1 2-hour work session, and approximately 6 hours of various committee meetings. Board members typically attend the AWWA regional and national conferences and the SDAO, the Special District Association of Oregon's winter conference. Expenses for the attendance of these conferences is covered by TVWD. Are you able to devote sufficient time to prepare for and to attend these meetings and conferences?
Yeah, I'm confident that I will have sufficient time for that, mostly because I have served on those other boards, which I have stepped down from, or especially ORPIB. It was a similar responsibility in terms of the number of hours, and I was able to do that effectively. I transitioned off in order to allow other people to serve and also to make room in my life for civic involvement, like what I'm interviewing for tonight. And so this is just I'm kind of a political nerd, and I love going to all these different meetings, and I'd love the opportunity to go to Washington, D.C. as well, if that were something I was able to do with you all. So yeah, I'm very confident that I will have the time and desire to do all that.
Great. All right. Last question for you, Dan. Board members work with a variety of people, including fellow board members, TVWD employees, the public, and our customers. Conflict can and does occur. Please share an example of the time you successfully navigated conflict with another person.
Yeah, well, each one of these different types of people that you mentioned would have probably a different approach. I mean, when it comes to members of the public and customers, a person in my role would have to be absolutely professional. And, I present in a very professional way in public, and, I would um, follow established procedures when it comes to our communications in that regard. Now, when it comes to conflict, I'd like to share a story about conflict that I had a couple of years ago with a coworker. This person and I, she and I were planning a site visit at one of our grantees to talk about the work that they were doing with our grant. And we were emailing back and forth, and I was sensing a little bit of sarcasm on her part and maybe some frustration with something that I had said or a decision that had been made. Um, and it just seemed to be swirling out there, and it was kind of sticking in my gut. Like, this doesn't feel like, I feel like we're in conflict. So I asked her to meet via Teams, and in our organization, we use kind of a shared vocabulary for talking about our talking about conflict. And what we do is we talk about our motivation. So different people are motivated by either performance, process, or people. And then when we get into conflict, that motivation might shift. And so that may not be the case with you all. I'm not, saying that you all are going to use that same vocabulary, but what I have learned is that you have to go right to the person. You can't triangulate. You can't talk to other people uh, about about a third person. And in this particular case, we spoke, we worked everything out, and she and I were able to work better than we ever had before. And I think it's because we were able to just be a little bit vulnerable with each other and just, talk about our motivations, and that has improved our communication. So this company that I work for now is very big on allowing people to be their authentic selves, and I believe in that as well. And we also just need to be cognizant that we're going to step on each other at times. And I'm big on principles above personalities as well. It's not my ego. It's not me needing to be right. It's about getting to the issue and doing what's best for the district.
Right. Oh, okay. Well, thank you. Those are the 8 questions we have for you right now. I think there's a spiel I'm supposed to have memorized about what happens next. I don't have it memorized. Maybe Carl does.
Does your process allow for me to ask you all any questions?
Sure. Carl, help.
Hey, I don't know if it would be fair to allow questions to be asked at this point since other participants weren't given that ability as well. So I think
Totally
we'll
fine.
we'll end our interview. But Daniel, we appreciate you putting your name forward. And as soon as all of the interviews are completed and we decide on our next steps, we will let all the candidates know of the results.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the conversation. I hope it's the first of many with you all, and it would just be an absolute honor to serve on this commission with you. So have a great evening and a good rest of your meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That's
And
why
next-
you're the president, Carl.
Next up, we have Brian Kennedy.
Great. All right. Hi, Brian. I'm Todd. Can you hear me okay?
Hello, yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep, great. And you got the 8 questions okay? And again, we're just going to be a little bit repetitive here, but I'm going to read you each question and give you some time to answer it. And if you're ready to go, let's get started.
I am ready.
All righty. Question number 1, what skills, connections, resources, and expertise do you have to offer TVWD as a board member?
Great. Well, thank you very much. And thank you, board members, for the opportunity to interview for this. I'm really honored to be at this point and happy to talk to you about my experience. My name is Brian Kennedy. I am currently the Chief Financial Officer for Metro, our regional government. All of my adult life, I have lived in TVWD. And so what I bring to this position is more than 25 years as a public servant. I have experience in management, in public administration, and public finance. I'm also a national leader in capital planning, capital budgeting, capital finance. I look forward to the opportunity to bring that experience to TVWD from the policy side of things rather than the staff side. I've also been an active community volunteer. I spent about a decade volunteering with the Beaverton School District, first on their Bond Accountability Committee, helping provide oversight of their 2014 bond measure, and then later with their Long Range Facilities Planning Committee, looking at the future of the district, particularly in the context of declining enrollment. Um, and I think most importantly, is I'm really passionate about infrastructure and especially water infrastructure. I really started my public finance career at the city of Hillsborough and had the opportunity in the finance department to work with the staff that managed the Joint Water Commission and the Barney Reservoir Joint Ownership Commission. And I was kind of amazed, enchanted, and continue to be impressed by the system that the region has built. With the deep partnership between the partners in all those projects and the Willamette Water Supply Project, I think it's a really remarkable testament to the power of regional government in building out infrastructure. And obviously, water systems are incredibly important. And TVWD is an organization I've long admired, and I would love to have the chance to help lead that organization into the future. It has done a ton of amazing work, and it would be a really great opportunity to take my experience in infrastructure, in planning, strategic planning, long range thinking, and help set the policy for that. Because I think so much of the success of the region has been around these really important investments that we've made in our water system, in our other public infrastructure that have enabled this part of the region to be the economic engine for really the state of Oregon. So I would love the opportunity to be a part of that and bring my long experience to the water district.
I know. Okay, great. Question number 2 is the board desires that selected board members will run in the upcoming May 2027 special election for a 4-year term. Would you do so?
That one's easy. Yes, I would plan on doing that if I were appointed to the position.
Great. Question number 3, as a board member, what would you do if you directly observed or learned of TVWD employees appearing unprofessional or representing the district poorly? For example, misconduct, tending to personal errands during the workday, etc.
Great. Again, this one is a pretty easy answer, and that is contact the CEO. The role of the board is policymaking, high-level governance, and it's inappropriate for board members to get involved in employee issues. So document the issue, contact the CEO. If we want to have a conversation later about those policies, that's something you can do as a board. But as a board member, it's not our responsibility, and it'd be inappropriate to get involved in dealing with the employees other than the CEO directly.
Yeah, great. Question number 4. Describe your experience in meeting the needs of people with low incomes. How would your experience impact your votes in setting policy for the district specific to increasing water rates to preserve the district's infrastructure and prepare for future water needs?
Excellent. So I spent a significant part of my career involved in elements of this. So early on in my career at the city of Hillsborough, I worked really closely with the utility billing portion and managed it for some of my time at the city of Hillsborough. As you're all probably familiar with, billing for water, sewer, and stormwater services for, at that time, is around 21,000 customers. And then since I've been at Metro, I have been involved and responsible for rate setting for our solid waste utility. In both those cases, understanding the impact of our public utility rates on low-income customers is really essential. And the thing I think it comes down to is knowing that affordability is absolutely critical, but it has to be balanced with maintaining service quality. Cheap water that isn't safe to drink doesn't serve anyone. So I've worked with setting up bill assistance programs like TVWD has, and I think that's a really important element so that people experiencing poverty, experiencing financial distress have a way to help get through those hard times with the bills that they're facing. From the budget perspective, or from the board perspective, I think it's really critical to approach the budget process and major capital investment decisions with a lens that ensures that we're being fiscally responsible and managing long-term costs while not risking the viability of the water system. And I think we all know, there's no easy button for this. There's no kind of one weird trick that will help us make all those long-term capital investments in a way that is not costly. That's one of the challenges with infrastructure is that it's expensive. And one of the things we know is that those investments, particularly when it comes to required maintenance, the longer we put it off, it gets more expensive every single day. So understanding that and understanding the way that those impacts affect the system are really important. Because I think one thing that is abundantly clear is we know that failures of water systems destroy public trust. You saw that in Flint, Michigan, in Jackson, Mississippi. Um, that failure of this something that is essential for life coming out of the tap that's not safe destroys the public's trust in the government that's responsible for providing those services. So it's really critical that we maintain the system and really like our water system is the foundation for growth in our part of the region. So we have to make sure that we are balancing the needs of low income customers with the need for ongoing investment. It's a really significant challenge, but one of the things that TVWD really has going for it is one of the ways that we manage those costs is by not going alone, by going with partners. And TVWD's work on the Joint Water Commission, on the Barney Reservoir, on the Willamette Water Supply Project are really great examples of how we do that work together in a way to try to manage those costs to help maintain this incredible system that produces the best water in the world for the people who live in our community.
All right, great. Question number 5. How do you plan to distinguish your personal views from the district's?
Thank you. So as a board member, I think part of your responsibility is to bring both your view and the view of the community into decisions. That's really important. You're elected or appointed to the board to bring that perspective. But then when the board is faced with decisions, and that might be on strategic plans, major projects, budgets, it's important to support the district when that decision is made, when we decide on a course of action, that even if we didn't necessarily agree with every element of the outcome, supporting that direction going forward and allowing the board and the organization to speak with a single voice is really important, both for building trust with the public, but then also helping not confuse the issue, helping the public understand the direction the board and the organization is going. And then I also think it's really critical to be clear that when you're speaking for yourself and when you're sharing the views of the board or the district, and to make clear that you're not conflating what might be your personal opinion with the direction the board has taken. So I think this is a challenge that I think all boards face, but I think what it really comes down to is when you become part of a board and supporting an organization, you also have to be committed and invested in the success of the organization going forward. And that means supporting the decisions that you make as part of the governance process that you participate in.
Great. All right. Question number 6 for you, Brian. The board of directors is a governing body responsible for setting policy for the district, and the CEO leads operations and manages the district's employees. The CEO reports to the board and the district employees report to the CEO. How do you plan to work effectively in this environment?
So I have experience serving on boards, and I'm familiar with the role of board members and then the staff of the organization. But I think more importantly, I've spent my career in public organizations on the staff side of this, and I've seen this environment work really well, and I've also seen some challenges. the consistent theme when it works really well is when the board is focused on policy, those high level issues that only the board can decide. And then those management and operation issues are delegated to the CEO, and they manage the staff and the execution of that policy. My interest in joining the board is really to focus on those policy issues, on the high level decision making, the strategic direction of the district, and I am happy to leave the operation of the organization to the CEO and the excellent staff that TVWD has. Yeah, I know several of them. It's an amazing team that does amazing work, and I'm excited to jump into the policy piece and think about the future of the district from a high level, and and really work on that partnership with the CEO to execute that vision over the long term.
You know, right. Question number 7. This is a little bit longer. Board members spend time attending board meetings, committee meetings, and conferences, as well as time preparing for those meetings. Each month, the board meets for 1 2-hour board meeting, 1 2-hour work session, and approximately 6 hours of various committee meetings. Board members typically attend the American Water Works Association May and June conferences, as well as the Special District Association of Oregon's Winter Conference. Expenses for attendance of these conferences is covered by TVWD. Are you able to devote sufficient time to prepare for and attend these meetings and conferences?
Yes, I will prioritize this commitment, and I don't see any obstacles to devoting sufficient time to prepare and attend meetings and conferences for the district.
All right. Last question, Brian. Board members work with a variety of people, including fellow board members, TVWD employees, the public, and customers. Conflict can and does occur in these interactions. Please share an example of the time you successfully navigated conflict with another person.
Yes, I think it's a great question. In my present role, in some ways, kind of, it's all about conflict. That if you're not having some sort of productive conflict, you're probably not doing your job. So this isn't something I shy away from. And a really great example is our organization is in the process of making a really major change to our financial and human resources technology systems. These sorts of projects are rife with conflict. Just in the last couple of weeks, we had a disagreement, and this was between myself and our HR director over the best approach for changing some of our business processes to accommodate the system changes. The most important thing was to kind of immediately address the issue. And this was to meet with him in person, listen to his concerns. And I think when we think about that sort of interaction, it's one of the essential activities is listening for understanding, not starting the conversation immediately trying to win or kind of advance my point of view, but understanding where he was coming from. And then once I understood his position, I shared my concerns and really worked on being open to feedback from him as we talked, in part because we've done this over and over again, that when you work with someone regularly in these sorts of roles, you have conflict. You encounter it on a whole variety of issues. And because we have built trust through a shared practice of listening for understanding, being open to feedback, we were able to find a compromise position that worked for both of us. And so I think, in any role, whether this is working with our elected Metro councilors, peers in partner organizations, the key is to listen, always to seek to understand, and really think about focusing on interests rather than positions, and working for creative resolutions that help both parties.
Great. Thank you, Brian. That's my last question. I'm going to hand you off to our board president, Fisher. He's already laughing. I'm going to hand you off to him, and he's got some final remarks.
Thank you, Brian, for participating in our interview process. So we will be, this is our next steps right here, as you can see. We'll be making an appointment either tonight by motion or scheduling a work session to discuss, or having that discussion and vote at our August 19th meeting. And as soon as we have reached a decision, we will let all the candidates know. And yeah, I think that's it for me. Sam, is there anything else we should cover?
Yeah, so just to close things up, the board has some options that are laid out in this slide. And it's really up to the board on how you want to proceed this evening. The options are laid out in front of you, and so I'll just turn it back to the board on direction on how to move forward.
So I guess the first thing I would ask my fellow board members, do you feel that you've had enough time to process all the information to make a decision tonight? Or would you rather wait till the work session?
This is Commissioner Lysak. I have narrowed down my list to 2 candidates. So I would, rather than even kind of coming straight forward with a preferred candidate, I would like to have a discussion with the board. That I'm prepared to have that tonight, but I'm also content to have that as one of our primary agenda topics for the work session.
Yeah, I can't make it. I can't make a decision tonight. This is actually far more impressive of a group of applicants than I would have ever suspected. I'm humbled and need time to think through this because we've got some absolutely fantastic applicants, and I don't think I can make a decision today. I'd like some more time.
Commissioner Duggan?
I'm in the same boat as Commissioner Sanders. I am completely at a loss on how to really ferret out a decision tree in my mind on the different skill sets that each one of these excellent candidates have brought us. And
Okay.
It's very difficult for me to make a decision tonight.
That's completely understandable.
And I need to remind everyone that I think I can make the August 4th work session, but I'm not 100% certain that I will have connectivity that I can rely on, even as much as I can, the connectivity that I have tonight. I do plan on having no issues attending the regular board meeting for August, but the work session, I am a little concerned to make a commitment to be there more than any other meeting. I believe that perhaps by then, with some reflection, I can whittle down my list, but I also want to hear the thoughts from my fellow commissioners on the different options that we have before us. Like Commissioner Sanders said, this is going to be a much more difficult decision than I thought, because we have 5 excellent people to choose from, and they all bring really great attitudes and motivations, and I can't find a fault or write off any one of them tonight, saying, "Oh, this person is clearly not what we want," and none of them, I think, are completely head and shoulders above the others. So it's going to take me some time to think through things as well. So just to summarize, if we want to try to have that discussion on the August 4th work session, I would love to hear it, but I definitely want to hear that discussion, or at least watch the thoughts if that discussion takes place in my absence on the 4th. And but I believe it would be great to make a decision. We should make a decision at least a month from now. We owe it to these excellent people and the amount of time that they put in to fill this vacancy.
Thank you, Commissioner Duggan. I'm very much you know, between the packet of information from the subcommittee to finishing the interviews tonight, I've been reviewing all the documents and I watched the first set of interviews again earlier today. I'm very much at that. I'm sort of almost to that point to where Elliot is, to where I have my top two preferences, and willing to have that discussion at the work session, and also to continue this forward to the May 19th meeting. And it sounds like that's what's going to be necessary for us to do tonight, is to schedule for further discussion on August 4th, and hope that Commissioner Duggan can be there for the discussion. But if not, he'll be able to hear all of our thoughts, and we'll be ready for the August 19th session, I think, Sam.
So can I think Commissioner Duggan indicated he would not be available on the 19th. Is that true, Commissioner Duggan?
What I indicated is I can't guarantee that I will be able to have connectivity that will make my attendance more of a certainty. There's kind of an uncertainty there, but I will make as best an effort to make the August 4th session as possible.
Okay. What else?
And if not, I will watch the recording or listen to the recording.
Just for clarity, Commissioner Duggan, are you talking about both the August work session and, excuse me, the August regular meeting, or just the work session?
Just the work session.
So you can attend the August meeting?
No.
Yes. No, I can attend the regular meeting on August
19th is the regular meeting.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
It's the work session that I may have an issue with connectivity.
So President Fisher,
can
I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
So because the board can't actually act at the work session, you could just have a discussion at the board meeting when you're all present, and then possibly make a decision at that time as well.
Elliot, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I have an X factor for the 19th. On the 19th, I will definitively be inaccessible. So I will be in the Eagle Cap Wilderness, guaranteed to not have internet access. So I would like to, I kind of understand where you're going, Sam, where it would appear that we arrive at a decision on the 4th potentially, but then we actually can't take any action on the 4th. Would it be possible for me to provide my like a candidate preference, a top two preference that then moves with the majority of the board in writing in advance of that meeting?
Well, we won't have a meeting anyway.
Oh, okay. Todd's in the same spot that I'm in.
I mean, I guess I'm just not understanding why we can't just have a discussion on the 4th and have an actual motion presented at the August meeting, if the August meeting was going to be an option.
I'm not going to be here.
Yeah.
Either.
So it sounds like the 19th is not going to work.
Correct.
The other option, we have a special meeting on August 4th. And in which case, if we advertise a special meeting, you could take action.
Well, then there's no guarantee that Commissioner Duggan can make that either, or we'll have connectivity issues.
Yeah, that would be the challenge. So we could have a special meeting at a different time in August if that's convenient to the board.
The 25th or the 26th, that last week of August, I would be able to make either of those dates, assuming we're trying to keep it to a Tuesday, Wednesday.
And I'm gone the 17th through the 23rd.
So then 25th or 26th would work for you as well, Commissioner Sanders.
That is correct, yes.
Is there a way for August 11th or 12th? shift our regular, if we voted tonight to shift our August 19th meeting to the 12th.
Do the 12th as well.
Yeah, either of those would work for me as well.
Can we do that, Sam? If they, by motion, change the meeting date?
So Commissioner Duggan, what you're saying is if we change the regular meeting date to the 12th, is that correct? As
Yes,
as
Or to
opposed
the
to a
25th
special
or
meeting?
26th?
as opposed,
Wasn't that what I
Well-
heard, either the 12th or the 26th?
Well, Commissioner Duggan suggested as opposed to having our regular meeting on the 19th.
Yeah.
it sounds like it might have a quorum issue.
Yes. If
Because-
we'll have two commissioners gone, we'll have a quorum issue because we only have a
On the
4-member
19th.
commission right now.
Yeah.
So if we could move the regular meeting to August 11th or 12th from the 19th, that seems to work. Or if that's a problem, Sam, we could have a special meeting on the 11th or 12th. And then we'd have a quorum problem on the 19th where we couldn't conduct business.
Yeah, I'm unable to say how that would affect staff's workflow to push all of that back. That would be my only concern, but that's up to you, Paul.
I think
I mean,
with this
I would
advanced-
rather give staff more time, so as opposed to making them have to, scrunch up their schedules. So if the 12th is pushing things up, maybe we push things back to the 26th.
I think we can make the 12th. This is enough notice. We're having this board meeting on the 15th. That gives us a fair amount of time to be prepared for the meeting on the 12th. We kept our agenda fairly light going into this period because we knew that filling the vacancy was going to be important and that you need that flexibility. So I'm confident that we can, unless Sam, there's something you're concerned about that I'm not understanding. I'm pretty sure we can make that work.
Again, I can't really say. I'm not looking at the calendar right now. So, we do have a work session on the 4th. Just briefly looking at the calendar, I think the 26th would be favorable to staff if we can make that work. But that's just my preliminary look at the schedule right now.
So board members, can I get a quick confirmation that the 26th would work for you?
Commissioner Duggan, yeah, I can make the 26th work. I just was just looking at the calendar a little bit. The 12th is still 4 weeks out from today. Now, I know there's noticing issues and other things that have to be done to make that change, but that normally our board meetings are either 4 or 5 weeks apart, and this monthly cycle, it would be 5 weeks apart if we had it on the 19th. If we moved it up to the 12th, that's 4 weeks out. So I just don't want to delay this decision any longer than it has to, especially considering the public scrutiny that we have. I know it's going to be tough on staff, but not hearing any specific conflict, I would really like to have it on the 12th. We're not holding these people in suspense for additional 2 weeks. If it's possible, we could get it on the 12th.
I'm confident we can make that work because we have, as you indicated, we have a little bit more time this month than normal because this meeting came quite early.
That's what I was thinking. But again, I'm not with anything. I'm just considering the public perception and the perception to these 5 excellent candidates of delaying a decision based on vacation scheduling and other conflicts.
Well, I'm not sure we're delaying it all that much by a week. If our meeting was going to be on the 19th and instead we make the meeting the 26th, we're still making a decision in August.
Yeah, it's just that if we had an excellent candidate tonight, if we had one that was head and shoulders above the others, we'd be making the appointment tonight. That I will be quiet.
So if somebody wants to make a motion, we can amend the regular board meeting for August.
If you have a preference for the 12th or the 26th, now is the time to make a motion.
I would be happy to make a motion, but what are we motioning to?
Okay, this is Commissioner Duggan. I make a motion that we move the regular August 19th meeting to August 12th if it is deemed feasible, or August 26th if the 12th is deemed unfeasible.
I second.
Seems like a very good compromise. So we will let staff determine what is feasible. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed? The motion passes. So we will turn it over to staff to determine if they can make the 12th work great, but if not, the 26th is just as fine.
Okay, we will be able to present that definitively to you at the August 4th work session. So, and we can probably include it in Thursday memo before then, frankly. So you can put your calendars together.
Yeah. Okay. If that's all the discussion about our board interview process and our next steps, I'm going to move us to our next agenda item, which is our updated Portland water supply agreement for boundary customers with Paul Matthews.
Oh, good evening again, President Fisher and Commissioners. This is a quick item. We actually had talked about putting the consent agenda, but we remember that Commissioner Lysak had asked to recuse himself from this. We assumed that that would be a similar situation again. So you might remember that in May, the board adopted the follow-on intergovernmental agreement that allows us to provide water to about 100 and some customers that are within the city of Portland, where our infrastructure is adjacent to their homes and businesses, and it would be just cost prohibitive for Portland to bring infrastructure to those places. You provided that authorization in May. There was provision in there if there were minor changes to the agreement that didn't change it to the extent that the general counsel could say it was essentially the same agreement, that would be authorized to sign it. Subsequent to that, Portland revised the agreement after we had adopted it to clarify the method used for calculating the service rate. The intent of these revisions was to make the agreement easier to administer over time, because Portland will have more wholesale customers that are coming and going. Given the extensive nature of the changes, our general counsel said, no, this is one we'll need to bring back to the board, and that's why we're here tonight. Having said that, the amount that Portland will pay for the services we provide will not change. It's just the agreement is, there were some more than just a few words that were changed. It was much more explicit on the process of how the rates would be calculated. So as we looked at it, we're fine with the proposal that Portland had put together. We're bringing it to you because, again, those changes were significant enough in nature. The board packet, the board packet included a draft resolution 1526. It had two exhibits on there. Exhibit 1 was the original agreement. Exhibit 2 is the proposed agreement. So if you adopt resolution 1526, that will give me the authorization to sign the contract or the intergovernmental agreement with Portland. We are providing water to those customers. The agreement technically expired July 1, but of course, we knew we had an agreement in principle with Portland on these matters. We just need to get the paperwork done. So that's essentially what the purpose between Resolution 1526. Our recommendation, first of all, did you have any questions about the agreement? So our recommendation is to adopt Resolution 1526 to authorize the CEO to execute the updated intergovernmental agreement between the City of Portland and Tualatin Valley Water District relating to the provision of domestic water. That ends my staff report.
This
Thank
is
you,
Todd
Paul.
Sanders, so move.
We have
This
a
is
motion.
Commissioner Doug. This is Commissioner Duggan, seconded.
We have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 1526. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Right?
Aye. All opposed? The motion passes.
Thank you.
Now we'll move to item C, which is board officer appointments.
And real quick, Commissioner Lysak, are you recusing yourself due to a potential conflict of interest?
Yep, that is correct, Sam. I am
Okay.
recusing in that vote. Thank you. Thank
All
you
right.
for making it explicit when we're doing it all virtually.
Yep, no problem.
So actually, this is probably a little mislabeled. It's not the board officer appointment. It's actually the board officer elections that we're talking about here tonight. The appointments are to the committees. The board president appoints committees, but then the officers are elected. So our board policy is that the board elects its officers at the first regular meeting of the fiscal year. That would be this meeting. At the July 26th work session, the board asked staff to prepare a resolution for the election of the board officers. The board will make committee appointments after the vacancy in position 5 is filled. That process, the board president will make the appointments and then it'll be confirmed by the entire board following the current board policy. So the officers that we have 5 positions: president, vice president, treasurer, secretary, and acting secretary. We talked about this last week, so I won't go into much detail. The proposal that we had shown here, obviously position 5 is vacant as Commissioner Doan has left the board. So these were the positions that were included in the resolution and that were discussed at the regular board meeting. There is a 3-term limit on the position of president, and this would be the 3rd term if the board so chooses to elect President Fisher again tonight. So with that, our recommendation is to approve Resolution 1626, approving the board officers for fiscal year 26-27. Any questions?
This is Todd Sanders. I move to adopt Resolution 16-26, approving the board officers for fiscal year 26-27.
This is Commissioner Lysak. I second.
So we have a motion and a second to approve the recommendation and resolution 1626. All those in favor, please say aye.
Right?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? The resolution passes.
And Sam, do we need to administer an oath, or is that just after the elections?
An oath for the board officers?
Yes.
I don't believe that we traditionally do an oath for those.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. I will now convene the TVWD Local Contract Review Board and open a public hearing on the proposed adoption of special procurement class, as well as updates to the Local Contract Review Board rules. Is there anyone who wishes to submit public testimony?
I'm not seeing any this evening, President Fisher.
Okay. I will close the public hearing and we will continue on with our Local Contract Review Board business items, which are the proposed adoption of a resolution approving the special procurement class. Justin Carlton.
Thank you, President Fisher. Good evening, Commissioners. So tonight we're bringing forward the revisions that staff is recommending to the local contract review boards. It's a two-step process, and I'll go into the details on that. You may recall we kind of briefed the board on this at the work session. So the first item is the class findings. And so under section 9.5 of the local contract review board, we have a list of our special procurement classes that are exempt from public bidding. And so when we did the revisions to the LCRB rules back in December, the board, or the LC acting as the LCRB, the board adopted findings that related to establishing public benefits of using alternative procurement procedures for all of the items listed in those exemptions. One of the items that was not specifically listed in exemptions, because we had some other exemptions that were applicable, but was in our prior rules and also consistent with ORS 279, was adding personal service agreements that qualify under the intermediate procurement level, so up to $250,000. And so in order to explicitly put that in the rules and put it in those exemptions, first we need the LCRB to adopt the findings that it would be publicly beneficial to use the alternative procurement procedures, and that it doesn't have potential effects on favoritism and competition as a listed class in that section 9.5 of the LCRB rules. So the staff recommendation is to acting as the LCRB, adopt resolution 1726, establishing the finding for special procurement classes as described in section 9.5 of the proposed LCRB rules.
Righto. This is Todd Sanders. I move to accept resolution 17-26.
This is Commissioner Lysak. I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adopt resolution 1726. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. I'm not seeing Commissioner Duggan at the moment. All those opposed? The motion carries.
Thank you. So onto our second step in the process is the actual revisions to the LCRB rules themselves. So as we mentioned last month, we did this pretty comprehensive review and update back in December, but then we're doing a little bit of a cleanup process now. And so a couple things that we wanted to address. The first was improve cooperative purchasing processes. And then the second was, which you actually took the first action on, was clarifying the intermediate purchasing thresholds for personal services. So as it relates to the cooperatives, so you're pretty familiar with cooperative contracts where these are agreements that the district can enter into that have already been that competitively procured through other public agencies, and so allows us an efficient mechanism to make purchases and enter into agreements in a fair manner that's equitable as well as economic to our customers. However, some of these cooperatives have some additional administrative steps associated with them, specifically a lot of them associated with the state of Oregon's Department of Administrative Services. And so they will have multiple contracts issued sometimes and under their cooperative agreements. And as such, they'll require additional steps to do additional quotes, even though they've already been competitively bid. But the LCRB can exempt the additional administrative steps, and that's what we're requesting you do tonight. And so you may adopt rules that would exempt us from those additional requirements. And so the proposed language that we would include in the LCRB rules would be section 972, which would state when administering agency has awarded contracts, price agreements, or participating addenda with more than one contractor for the same or similar good, service, or personal service, including architecture and engineering service or public improvement, using a competitive solicitation, the district may directly select any contractor of choice for award or appointment as a cooperative procurement from among the approved original contracts or participating addenda and without conducting additional selection process. So it gives us a little more of a streamlined process there. And so as it relates to the second item, intermediate procurements, as the LCRB defines those as procurements between $25,000 and $250,000. As I mentioned, those were previously exempted under the old LCRB rules. And so we've now that we've adopted the findings, we can incorporate the changes in the rules themselves. to make sure that there's consistency among those and the two sections that reference them. So the two sections would be under section 4.3, which discusses the different procurement levels. It would specifically state that personal services are not subject to that competitive solicitation as noted in section 9.5, and then cross-referencing section 9.5, it would include the personal services up to 250,000 listed as those exempted classifications. And staff recommends that acting as the LCRB, the board adopt resolution 1826, which would revise the local contract review board rules as proposed. Happy to take any questions.
Justin, will you go back one slide, please?
Yes.
Thank you. This is Todd Sanders. I move to adopt resolution 18-26.
This is Commissioner Lysick. I second.
Okay, there is a motion and a second to pass resolution 1826. So I will call the vote. All those in favor, please respond by saying aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed? The resolution is adopted.
And Commissioner Duggan, just to confirm, you did vote aye on 1726.
That is correct. Sorry,
Okay.
I had a disconnection problem, but was able to get back in the meeting, and it happened immediately before the motion was made.
I saw your notation in the chat. I just wanted to get it on the video record as well. So thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Well, folks, just a short, quick thank you all for pulling through these interviews that we've had to make over the last two meetings. I very much appreciate your involvement and your thoughtfulness so far, going back to the subcommittee that started this whole process. And August, we're going to get through and make a decision, and I'm looking forward to finishing this journey with you.
Thank you very much to the subcommittee members. You did an excellent job. I share the sentiments that I'm incredibly impressed with the group of candidates that made it this far, and it's very refreshing to see so many qualified people expressing an interest in this level of public service.
I concur. This is Commissioner Duggan. I am, like Commissioner Sanders said, I am humbled, definitely humbled by the candidates that we have before us.
Well, with that, I will adjourn our meeting. Have a wonderful evening, everybody.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.